Welcome back to DIY guitar making. We're gonna get right into the Q&A. I don't really have anything else to talk about outside of your questions right now, so honestly, we'll just jump right into it. Here we go. Okay, so Rui Souza writes, "Hi Eric, a question about the lattice bracing. As I understand it, you don't glue the individual pieces of the bracing, they are just assembled using a tight fit." Yes, that is correct, sort of. I don't find that it's necessary to add a dollop of glue in the individual joints, and honestly, they're so tight that when you press fit them, I don't want to have to pull them back out again, because you have to kind of press them in to see if the fit is appropriate, and at that point, if it goes in, it's good. I don't want to have to actually try and get it back out because it's very tight, and you can actually, you can split things if you try and force it back out, okay? But in a sense, it is actually glued. What you didn't see from that previous video, because I hadn't gotten to that point yet, was in the end, I glue caps, just little thin pieces of spruce or cedar over the top of that joint, and that while the lattice bracing would still, I think, would still be fine even without those caps, it definitely restores the full integrity of those joints to put just a little thin shaving of spruce over the top, and there's glue on that cap, so yeah, in a sense it does get glued. I just don't put the glue in the notch. Okay, so next question. Okay, another one about the same thing, asking about the glue in the braces. Okay, this is similar but different. Vanimir Tusik writes, "This is an interesting approach and thank you for sharing your insights. However, I don't understand, how are you going to glue the lattice onto the back of the guitar if the struts are domed on one side? I presume you will glue the flat side, not the domed side." No, so the reason we radius braces, and this is true of all guitar braces, not just this lattice bracing that I'm doing. If you were doing ladder, just typical ladder bracing, you would also radius one side and then glue that curved radius side down to the plates. Same if you're doing an X brace on the top, you radius the X and then glue the curved side to the plates. Because the idea is this: the plates are hyper thin enough that they are very pliable. So if you glue it to the flat side, you're defeating the whole purpose of curving them in the first place. You want to glue it to the curved side because those braces are stronger and more stout. Imagine it like it's an arm wrestling competition where the braces win. They're much stronger, much more stout than the thin flexible plates. So they will pull those thin flexible plates and force them to conform to that curve. And that's how you get your radius, and then that, eggshell-like radius that we have, that doming of the thin plates, gives it a massive amount of structure. So curved side gets glued down to the plates. All right, next question. Vinicius Silva writes, "Hi Eric, thank you so much for the great content. Is there any particular reason you use a pincher for the waist and not spreaders, just like in the lower and upper bouts? And why not simply use the scrap from the mold itself to create one single spreader for the whole form?" Okay, I'm going to answer just the first part of this question, because I'm not sure what you're talking about with the second one. So, why do I use a pincher for the waist and not just a waist spreader, just like in the upper and lower bouts? And actually, so the answer is I actually now do use a regular spreader. Let me get it. So the video that he or she saw is from the online course where I show you how to make a pinch style spreader, which works by, you have two pieces of wood and a bolt that goes through the two pieces of wood, and then you just put a wing nut on it, and when you tighten down that wing nut, it will pull those two pieces of wood together towards each other, which then it pinches down on the waist, and that pinching tension there holds everything together. But what she's talking about is you can also just make something like this. The reason I show the pincher style is because that works just as well, and it's easier to make. That's really it. So the online course is meant to be approachable to a new builder. So some things I teach multiple ways of doing things, and I often encourage simplicity over complexity. Okay, and this is just a little harder to make something like this. But they both work, and I actually use these now for my mold. I don't really use the pincher for not very interesting reasons. I find that it's, you know, a little more annoying to use. That's not a big deal. It's a good question. Let's see. Jerry Rosa from Rosa String Works. Luthier videos on YouTube. Yeah, I know. I've seen his videos. They're excellent. He has a brother who made a guitar out of canary wood recently. I am pretty certain, at least, he showed it on some of his shop talks, I think. Okay, that was Riley Connors writing that, and thank you for that. Someone had asked about canary wood before, and I said that I didn't really have any experience with it or know anything about it. So check that out if you're interested in learning a little bit more about canary wood. Check out Rosa String Works. I mean, that guy's doing videos daily, something crazy like that. He's a machine. How come you didn't install the kerfing before adding your side braces? Are you going to have to cut out each side brace for the kerfing, or just the kerfing between the braces? It just seems like a lot of extra work you could avoid if adding the kerfing first. Yes, it is. So it's more work, but the structural integrity of the sides is better, and you get more rigidity out of the sides if you run your braces from plate to plate. So I will admit that this is a micro thing, a micro improvement. So a lot of builders put their side braces between the kerfing so that they can just glue one continuous strip of kerfing, very easy to do, and then you just fit your side braces between the kerfing. But again, for the reasons I just mentioned, I find it to be just a little bit better to run the braces from plate to plate. It is more work though, because what I have to do is cut the kerfing into individual pieces that fit between the side braces and then glue that in. Hi Eric, thanks for all the great content you are sharing. Rui Souza wrote that, and he writes, I know it takes a lot of time. It's very much appreciated. I appreciate you saying that, because it does take actually a lot of time. What you don't see is all the time, you know, editing content like this. That's the majority of the time. It's actually pretty easy to sit in front of the camera and just get going like I am. The other thing you don't see, there's always a little bit of prep work. You know, I might look through some of the questions and have to gather my thoughts, essentially. So H43N writes, a redwood tree falling down sounds totally different than a bonsai. Checkmate! What he's talking, that's a comment on my, it's the video I wish I'd never made, which is the one that is debunking the electric guitar tone wood debate. Basically, I'm on the side of the wood on an electric guitar body does not have a meaningful impact on tone whatsoever. It's so small as to be not discernible. And yeah, he's just making a good joke there. think he's, you know, I get a lot of nasty comments on that one, and a lot of very good ones. And then just a nice, funny one like that. A redwood tree falling down sounds totally different than a bonsai. Checkmate. That's good. I like that. How are the sides prepared for the taper prior to bending? Is the taper cut the full length of the unbent side? That is what most guitar builders do. They will cut the taper into the side before bending it. What you can also do is what I do, where I just bend it at a consistent width all the way across, no taper cut into it, and it's a little bit oversized width-wise, just a little bit. And then I cut my two blocks, my neck block and my end block, and the taper is based on the size, the difference in size between those two blocks. So for example, on my OMs, the end block is 100 millimeter height and the neck block is a 90 millimeter height. So I just shape those two blocks to size, and then I glue them to the bent sides, and then the excess side that is sticking up from the neck block, because remember the neck block is shorter, that all just gets shaped off mostly on the radius dish when I'm radiusing. Okay, so there's just different ways to do it. Like I mentioned before, other people will start, most I would say, start with the unbent side, cut their taper into it, and then bend it. Different strokes for different folks. Okay, Walter Ryder writes, thank you, Eric. Question, please, on the Wengi. Looks real porous. Will you pore fill and use a blue tint to match the other blue in the build? And DALG Guitars responded with, sounds like a nice idea, but Wengi takes a lot of work to fill. And yeah, I want to, he makes a good point on that. I might not even pore fill that Wengi parlor guitar. I'm undecided on that. I've never worked with Wengi before, so this is a little bit new to me. But I'm kind of leaning towards not pore filling it because the pores are so dramatically large. I mean, Wengi has some of the biggest pores. I mean, it's the biggest pores that I've ever seen on any wood. I don't know what's out there that has bigger pores than Wengi. If there is something, I don't want to use it. So anyway, pore filling Wengi, I know, is going to be a huge chore, but also it might look really great because the pores are so big. It's almost like an opportunity to really accentuate the fact that the pores are so big and just leave them unfilled. I guess what I mean by that is sometimes when you have a wood that is semi-porous, like it has some pores, but largely the pores are either too small to be noticeable, or there'll be certain parts of the wood where there's no pores. There's a lot of woods like that, and in those cases, you more so want to pore fill them because it's going to look not that good. It's going to look a little awkward when you have, some areas are pore filled well, and the more semi-porous or non-porous areas are going to look more glossy and different. But in the case of Wengi, because the pores are so huge and just ubiquitous all around the guitar, it might be something to show off, actually. And that's kind of where I'm leaning. Now, as far as the blue tint thing, I've never even thought about using any kind of tint on pore filler. I know that it's a thing, but I don't know. Maybe I'll look into that. I mean, thanks, Walter. It's a cool idea to go with the blue. I'm not sure how that would look, but yeah, I mean, I'd consider that for sure. Jim Morrow writes, was your shop a previous Italian restaurant? Just kidding. I would love to do what you are doing. Are you kidding, though? Because actually this was a previous Italian restaurant. I'm not sure if it was Italian, actually, but I mean, everything in this area in Burnville is all the restaurants seem to be Italian restaurants, so it probably was. This used to be the Tulpehocken Hotel. It's a very old building, 177, 178 years old. And it was a restaurant, it was a hotel at various points. In its last iteration before I got it, it was Evan's Tavern, so it was more of like it's kind of like a dive bar, I think, but they had a restaurant side too. And the area that I'm sitting in right now used to be the dining area of this bar slash restaurant. Here, I'll pick up the camera and just show you it a little bit, and you can kind of see what I'm talking about. You could kind of imagine, pull all these machines out of here and move a bunch of tables in. And the bar was through there, and everything with this green carpet here would have been full of tables. So yeah, you're right on with that, Jim. Okay, and that's all I got for you guys today. Keep those questions coming, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now. If you learned something here, please give this video a like and subscribe so you can be notified when I release a new DIY guitar making video. And if you want to really learn more, take one of my structured online courses at ericschaferguitars.com or register for a hands-on guitar building workshop here with me in Burnville, Pennsylvania.